Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo. Oh boy, we are roughly a quarter of a way through the season, 4 weeks in, heading into week 5. Let me tell you personally, there's been some incredible struggles, and I know it seems the course of fantasy football this year has been a heavy up and down performance. There hasn't been too many close games from what I've heard. In terms of fantasy football, it's been pretty much blowouts or you suck, and there's no in between. So we're here. There's a lot of panic around a lot of guys. There's a lot of injuries around a lot of big names as well. Top 4, top 3 round draft picks that we will break down to make sure you're not hitting the panic button on some of these guys just yet. It is just Ryan and I today. Josh, once more, does not have power due to Hurricane Ian, so it is just me and the Weisse holding it down. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zollo, and joining me, as always, for the second week in a row, just me and him. Never been done before, but we said, hey, back-to-back weeks. Ryan Weisse. Ryan, hello.
Who knew 2 years ago when you guys invited me on to be this third host that I would eventually replace the founder and it's just me and you now.
And you'd be
the two assholes.
Co-host. Yeah,
exactly.
The two assholes. Oh my god, it's like Boston sports radio except for fantasy football. It's incredible.
What's funny is I thought about that after last week's show. We were actually far too nice for our two personalities. It's like Josh drags the anger out of us. So
well, when he says dumb shit all the time, of course he's gonna. Yeah. I'm sending out my tweet to make sure everybody knows that we are indeed happening and live right now. Okay.
I love it.
So, let me tell you. Let me get into this right now. First thing, my father is the first comment.
I was gonna say,
I'm not going to bring it up yet. He is in Hawaii with my mother of 26 years.
She's been your mother for 26 years?
Well, how do I even say that? My father, who's been the husband of my mother, is that how the progression goes? Regardless, he's in Hawaii with my mom right now, and I was not expecting him as the first comment here at all. So let me just, again, we go into my reactions from the past week, and the reaction this week. Well, let me tell you, I did a little bit of digging, went back, watched some former episodes. Ryan says he's very excited to hear some of this.
Yeah. Joe watched tape, but not tape on players, because God forbid. He watched tape on our show. So.
No, the tape on players I just watch every Sunday. I see with my eyes. So here we go. This I enjoyed because I thought back, and obviously the big thing surrounds Cole Kmet around this show. And I went back and watched our Cole Kmet Bears breakdown with Linda Godfrey. Okay. So I went back and I was like, okay. I thought I remembered a conversation of like, who would you rather with Cole Kmet? We ended up not having that, which surprised me. I thought we had it on one episode, but I just wasn't able to find it. So I went back and I watched that entire segment. And here's something I found. Here we go. Here's my notes. I'm going to start with the Cole Kmet because that kind of set up this whole thing, even though it's the third bullet point. Episode 248. If you want to watch it, go back. Episode 248 of No Punt Intended. Quote, Kmet will be the second option in the Bears offense. Linda. She continued her sentence after that.
Yeah.
She was close. He's the third option behind Darnell Mooney and Equanimous St. Brown with 8 targets. That's all you need to be the third option in the 8 targets. Funny, Dante Pettis has more points on one play.
Yeah.
Volume reigns supreme, Linda. No, Always. It does not. Okay. I will stick on episode 248 because I have 3 other bullet points from episode 248.
Okay, episode 248 was a little hot fire, wasn't it?
It was a hot one, and I wasn't expecting to pull some of these. Well, actually, I'll continue with Josh's. So Josh said, I do have Kmet at 101 targets. He has 8 right now.
Yeah.
The team
on
as
pace
a whole,
for a whopping 35.
Yeah. The team as a whole has 67 pass attempts.
Yes.
Unbelievable. So, Josh, Ryan, to you. You fought me. This was episode 240. I don't know how we got into this because I don't think
I was gonna say I know you're not gonna accuse me of defending Kmet because that whole episode was me just throwing numbers at Linda.
No, this is episode 248, and this is on Mecole Hardman versus MVS, which I don't know how that popped up on this episode. But you said they drafted Mecole Hardman to be the next Tyreek Hill.
I put it in articles, bro.
You put it in articles. Currently, Mecole Hardman is wide receiver 80, whereas Marquez Valdez-Scantling is wide receiver 61 and has double the targets and yards and has 5 more receptions. That's with Mecole Hardman having a touchdown.
You know what? Here, let me throw this at you. I'll take my L even bigger on this. I paid a fucking second for Mecole Hardman after the Tyreek Hill trade, thinking that it was going to happen. So,
woo! Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, we love that. Accountability. And another one. We discussed Johnny Munt versus Cole Kmet and how Munt was a blocking tight end.
Of course we did.
Because we talked about, the Vikings.
We're the only show. We got to be the only show in the world who discussed Johnny Munt.
Yeah.
It's hard to stop.
Kevin O'Connell goes to the Vikings, right?
Yeah.
Former Rams tight ends coach. He was there at the time. Like, Johnny Munt will, he'll see some action. And you guys are like, no, you want Cole Kmet over Johnny Munt. Johnny Munt leads Kmet in receptions, targets, and yards. Oh, and also fantasy points. Johnny Munt is tight end 40, and Cole Kmet is tight end 46. The difference, you ask? You didn't have to draft Johnny Munt.
Well, let's be clear. You also didn't have to draft Cole Kmet.
You also didn't have to draft Cole Kmet, but there's a lot of people telling you to draft Cole Kmet. And
yes, there
now,
were.
You might be asking yourself, Joe, there's no way you're perfect in this whole scenario. You are correct. And I found something that I said that was incorrect. I said Nathan Peterman will start 2 games this year. I said that when we talked about the Bears preview. He is sadly not on the Chicago Bears roster. So I will take the L on Nathan Peterman.
As Nathan Peterman's been taking his entire life.
Yeah. I really hitched my wagon to Nathan Peterman.
Yeah,
everyone hitched their wagon to Kmet.
I was gonna say you went far too John Gruden in your love of Nathan Peterman. So.
God, how dare I? All right, Lou, DK, Judy, or Deontay, pick one. Deontay goes into Buffalo. Judy is tomorrow night at home against the Colts, and DK Metcalf plays somewhere this week. Why am I forgetting who Seattle plays?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay, they're in New Orleans, correct?
They are.
They're in New Orleans. Okay, 1. Deontay's out for me. I do hate that matchup against Buffalo.
Yeah, don't love the Deontay matchup. I don't love DK because I think he's going to go one-on-one with Marcus Lattimore, and Lattimore can either get toasted or win, but I think he could win against DK. I think it's going to be a Tyler Lockett game, so by default, I think I'm going Jerry Jeudy in this one. Colts are down bad on offense. I think Denver's in for a nice rebound game at home.
Jeudy can't catch. DK Metcalf by default. Jerry Jeudy cannot catch.
I'm fine with DK Metcalf as well. Yeah. I just worry about Lattimore.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy cannot catch. It's fine. This will be a down game for Marshawn Lattimore, per usual. Coin flip. Ring chasing. He has good running backs and tight ends, quarterbacks, Russ, receivers, Evans, Sutton, Samuels. Look to trade for a top receiver. Running backs are Barkley, Jamal Williams, and Damian Pierce. I don't know what firepower you have to get a top.
I was going to say,
receiver.
You'd have to have somebody really high on Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel is actually a pretty damn good 3rd wide receiver. I don't know what the move you would make is. I guess you could package Evans with something. I think Russ is actually your bigger problem right now until he gets his shit together. But while you have great starting, he has Jonathan Taylor too. I was like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but your running backs are a little weak as well. But Jonathan Taylor helps that out
now we're
greatly.
Fine. Yeah, we're good. We're chilling.
Well, we've been talking about packaging Jamal Williams to a trade for a while now. So if you could take Jamal Williams, I suppose if you could take Jamal Williams and Sutton and turn it into an elite wide receiver, or take Evans and Williams and turn it into like top tier shit. Cause I think Evans is going to play well as Brady starts to play better. I would try to package Williams with one of those wide receivers, or see, I don't think Williams and Samuel gets anything done for you. So I would hang on to Barkley, Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, try to package Williams, maybe with Sutton, but I don't know that you're really that far off. I think Russ is your bigger problem right now. So
yeah, ideally of the running backs, you want to get rid of Jamal Williams because yes, he has touchdown upside, but his upside really lies when DeAndre Swift is out.
Yeah, and they're on bye week 6. If you can move him now, you're unclogging a roster spot for week 6.
Yeah, that's true. I'd be okay with trading Williams and Sutton. I like Evans a lot.
I do.
So
too.
I wouldn't want to get rid of him. I mean, ideally Samuel is the guy you want to get rid of with Jamal Williams. But yeah, Jamal Williams is probably the centerpiece of the trade, along with one of those other receivers in Sutton or Samuels.
So let's say you can move Samuels. What kind of player would we attack there? Would we go after maybe, I think we were talking a little bit about him, Christian Kirk last week. I know that's not getting him into elite wide receiver, but it's upgrading. Maybe attack Amon-Ra St. Brown right now while he's missing games. So like Jamal and Samuel for ARSB. Like I feel like a move like that could possibly get done.
I mean, I'd laugh at the trade proposal if you sent me Jamal Williams and Curtis Samuel for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but crazier things have happened in this world.
I've certainly seen worse trades.
So yeah, I mean, if you can go get ARSB, I don't hate that. Jalen Waddle off a really down week.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's a big stretch, but Jalen Waddle off a really down week.
What about Sutton for Waddle though? Like Sutton and J. Will for Waddle. I mean, are Sutton and Waddle that far apart? Okay.
I would put. Me personally, like on my own team, I wouldn't do that because I need it to be even. I cannot trade 2 for 1 or whatever that may be, because I know the guy I'm picking up off the waiver wire sucks. So I need it to be even. Yeah. But I mean, I put Waddle ahead of Cortland Sutton easy, and I said that before the season.
Sutton's the wide receiver 11 in PPR right now. Waddle's the 5. So I mean, he's certainly outperforming him. I just don't know if it's a big enough upgrade for me, but I know you're a big Waddle guy. And more importantly, Waddle, if you always got to play the if game, if Tyreek were to go down, Waddle is to the moon at that point. So
100%. Yep. All right, Elixirs, one more, then we'll get into our upside downsides here. Elixir, Standard, Olave, Marquise, Christian Kirk, Brandon Cooks, Garrett Wilson. I imagine that's not Cedric. Yeah. Start 3. Joe, please, I don't need to know my team is garbage again. My 12 place is already telling me that. Well, okay, that's good to know. So basically, which 2 are you sitting? Olave is at home against the Seahawks. Marquise Brown is at home against the Eagles. Christian Kirk is home against Houston. Brandon Cooks is in Jacksonville. Garrett Wilson is at home against the Dolphins.
I think I'm going to sit Marquise Brown to start. Darius Slay this week, Eagles this week. Not a big Marquise Brown guy this time. The rest I have trouble with. I still haven't seen a great game from Cooks. He definitely popped last week. Of this bunch, probably sitting Cooks. I'd like to know a little bit more about Olave's matchup. It's down to Olave. I'm starting Christian Kirk. I'm starting Garrett Wilson. I'm big on Garrett Wilson this week. So it's down to Olave and Christian Kirk for me. Seattle's this like weird conundrum. They're giving up a ton of points to the quarterback, but not to the wide receiver, which is weird. So.
Which we aggressively saw last week with TJ Hawkinson. And
So, I mean, that probably helped and hurt their stats at the same time. So,
yeah, I'm going to sit Brown and Cooks as well. Jacksonville, again, their lone home game, they've only played 1 home game, I think. So their lone home game, they shut out the Colts, and the Texans are not as good as the Colts. So I think that defense has played well. I mean, I'm not going to say they played great against Philly, but for points throughout the game, they looked really good.
Jacksonville, it's going to sound ridiculous because we know how it ended, but Jacksonville controlled that game for the first half of the first quarter. Like I literally thought they had the game in the bag, and then the weather kicked up and they fell apart, plain and simple. So
yeah, 100%. All right. Upsides, baby. Oh God, I choked.
Jesus Christ.
I'm dying. I'm dying. That's the second straight week this has happened. Oh my God. It's all right. I'm just going to hold my throat. We'll be chilling. Okay. Josh's picks. He was 2-1 last week for not being here. Congratulations.
Josh in the chat also. I thought that's what got you all choked up. So
No. I was, I mean, I guess I'm sad that he's here. So yeah, that's fair. He's 2-1 last week, 3-9 of the season. Dallas Goedert, top 3 tight end. That's big time. Terry McLaurin, top 15 receiver, noting that no Jahan Dotson. Tennessee, well, they just suck. So, and Tom Brady will be a top 7 QB. He's currently QB 15. I mean, he plays well against Atlanta in his career, obviously.
Yeah. I feel like
that game is at home.
I feel like folks who've been getting agitated with Tom Brady, Mike Evans, and even to a lesser extent Chris Godwin, if he's able to come back in, maybe even Cameron Brate if he's back from the concussion, I feel like they're all going to get rewarded this week against Atlanta. So
100%. Ryan, you were 1-2 last week, 3-9 in the season. You got Juwan Johnson in the top 10 against Seattle. The aforementioned, TJ Hawkinson game. CeeDee Lamb scores 20-plus fantasy points against the Rams. We'll get to that when I go to my downside.
Yeah, I was going to say you threw me off when I read your downsides. So.
Yeah. And James Robinson scores 2 touchdowns against Houston, which I hate.
I jinx everybody.
Because you called James Robinson last year.
Yep.
And he tore his ACL.
Yep. So it's over. Achilles, even worse, right? So.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Achilles. I am starting James Robinson and benching Najee Harris. I need this to be so true.
All right.
I need it to be so right.
So Eckler scored 3. Khalil Herbert scored 2. And Jonathan Taylor should have had 2. He had 31 carries and 161 yards. Houston can't stop the run. Plain and simple, but way more importantly, and the most important thing, James Robinson has 14 red zone touches this year. And that's exactly what you want from your running back, being used inside the 20. He's going to find the end zone twice this week. I'm not even a little bit worried about it. I'm going to let you cover it on the downside. So I'm not going to get big into my CeeDee Lamb thing. So I'll save all my notes to go against you in the downside. For Juwan Johnson, Seattle, as we saw, is giving up a ton of points to the tight end. Just got torched by TJ Hawkinson last week. But they've given up 7+ fantasy points to the starting tight end every week this entire season. And Juwan Johnson's at 17 targets. And then 3 of 4 of his games, they've at least been over 4 targets. And 2 of 4, it's been over 6 targets. He is the starting tight end there. Don't let this Taysom Hill nonsense fool you. He's not playing as a tight end. I don't know how they've decided to code him as a tight end in fantasy or on their real roster. It's not what he is whatsoever. Juwan Johnson is the starting and playing tight end for the New Orleans Saints.
Yep. Myself, I was 2-1 last week, 4-8 in the season. Ramondre Stevenson, top 24 against Detroit.
Love that.
Talked about it last week, that Ramondre Stevenson I said would be the dump-off back because he's the pass catcher. Look at what happened last week.
I just want to see it in a game with Jacoby Myers before I'm fully bought in, but I agree. It's looking good. So
100%. But Stevenson is the dump-off guy for running back. Myers is the dump-off guy in general. I like Stevenson, and that's, God, do I hope Bailey Zappi plays. I hope Zappi plays. I do not want
Zappi?
It is.
I've actually never heard his name pronounced. I always thought it was Zap. So, okay.
Bailey Zappi is how it is pronounced. I hope it is Bailey Zappi. 100% hope it's Bailey Zappi. Tyler Conklin, I'm for 10+ points against Miami.
Back on the Conklin train. I was down on him last week. I'm back with you this week. He's number 3 on my stream of the week list. So
Hurst had over 11 with a touchdown. Mark Andrews obviously smoked that team. I think the only bad performance that a tight end's had is New England.
Yeah.
And
they has a conglomeration of 3/4 of a tight end right now. So.
Yeah, I don't. Jonnu Smith did have 4.8 points against Miami, so that tells you how bad they are against the tight end, I guess.
Yeah, he's a little banged up this week too. Jonnu is. So
tell me when he's not banged up.
Yeah.
And I have Derek Carr top 12 against Kansas City. I know he struggled there last year, or just struggled against them in general last year. I think it's, I don't know if it was something clicked last week. I don't know if it was because they were pounding Josh Jacobs.
Yes, they were.
I mean, you want to talk about a guy who knows how to play against Kansas City and call an offense against Kansas City. maybe it's the dude that's beaten him twice in the playoffs and Josh McDaniels. So like he knows what to do against that Mahomes and Andy Reid led team, clearly has experience with that. So I still think Kansas City probably wins the game. I had the Raiders beating Kansas City at home this year, not in Kansas City. But then again, my guesses on the Raiders have been absolutely dog shit, so it doesn't matter. But I did say Derek Carr, I believe top 10, and he was QB 11 when I said that a couple weeks ago. So I do feel confident in Derek Carr this week.
There you go. So he'll finish one spot behind where you said he would.
Of course he will. No questions yet, which is all right. In between, no
Fine
sponsor reads either, which is okay. Downsides. We're way better at downsides.
We are.
Way better. Yeah. Josh, you were 2-1 last week, 8-4 in the season. Josh's picks. Jamal Williams doesn't have a rushing touchdown this week against the Patriots. Mostly because no one has had a rushing touchdown this year against the Patriots. And they just signed Jamie Collins, so you know it's only going to get better.
Did they? I missed that.
They signed Jamie Collins for like the 17th time.
Yeah.
God. Just make up your mind. Make up your mind on the guy. It's unbelievable. Kyler Murray, fewer than 20 fantasy points against Josh's Eagles. And Zach Ertz will be outside the top 15. Very clearly, Josh does not like the Arizona Cardinals offense this week.
It's funny because I didn't even mean to do this on my downside. I picked two players from the same team as well. I do like to point out that Josh brought up that it's a Hassan Reddick revenge game. And I know that Joe does not enjoy calling Hassan Reddick a good pass rusher. So.
Do you know what's funny? For our IDP show tomorrow, I'll spoil it. We have our lower expectations segment. The guy I put was Hassan Reddick. Do you want to know why?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 2 sacks last week, 4 tackles. What do I say? What do I say every year? Hassan Reddick has 1 blow-up game. Yeah. And then what happens after that? Nothing. First 2 weeks, 0 sacks. Week prior, week 3, 1.5 sacks. So he's gaining to that blow-up game. He only had 14.5 points that week. Blow-up game, 32.5 points. He was one of the highest scoring defensive ends in terms of Fantasy Pros scoring. Career-wise, Hassan Reddick does not perform well after his big game.
Interesting.
That's all. That's all. And I saw the revenge game. Like, dang, I don't know if I want to rest my laurels on Hassan Reddick because it is a revenge game. But we've seen recently, revenge games mean shit. No one's getting revenge on anybody anymore. Carson Wentz looked like dog shit against the Eagles in his first time back. So, like, it's not happening. Revenge games have lost its luster since Steve Smith left the league. Like, that's what happened.
I feel like now that we've perfectly moved into revenge games, Josh brought up some interesting facts with the Zach Ertz revenge game. Josh says it's a revenge game for Philly. And then when you look at what they've done to former Eagles this season, Deuce Staley with the Lions, Jalen Reagor with the Vikes, which I absolutely love.
Hold on. We are not adding Jalen Reagor to the reverse revenge game. That's not happening.
I'm reading his notes because if we just blow through this show how we are right now, we're going to finish this bitch in a half an hour. Carson Wentz for Washington and then Doug Peterson with Jacksonville. So Josh is saying it's a revenge tour for the Philadelphia Eagles. And they have Jason Peters. They have Jason Peters with Dallas next week. So Josh is just lining up the dominoes for his Eagles right now.
I'll take revenge game against Justin Jefferson because they fucked up and didn't draft Justin Jefferson. How about that? That makes more sense than Jalen Reagor. But the Eagles do not do well against play well. They play well against the tight end, which is ironic because, I mean, I think it was last year where it was, if the tight end plays Philadelphia, you're starting that tight end.
The running joke was death, taxes, and tight end touchdowns against
Philadelphia. All right, we'll get through the rest of these downsides, and we'll get to some of the questions that are coming in. Ryan, 1-2 last week, 6-5-1 in the season. Kenny Pickett throws 3 more interceptions against Buffalo. Yes, agree. Yep. Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley don't score 10 combined fantasy points against Tampa. Great way to cool some people off the Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley train.
See, I didn't know if you were going to give me a hard time about that because I haven't talked about. Yeah, I was going to say with the waiver, it's 100%. It's inspired by you and Dearness Johnson. 100% every time I see things like this. So yes, 100% a Joe move. And then like you said,
I love it.
like we talked about, I also am picking on the Steelers twice, as Josh picked on the Cardinals twice. So.
Don't worry, I'm piggybacking on the Steelers too. You have
Yep.
Pat Freiermuth outside the top 15 against Buffalo, obviously. What's promising, I think, with Freiermuth is he was getting a shit ton of looks.
Yeah.
And common from a young quarterback, because tight ends tend to be more in your vision, middle of the field, closer to the line of scrimmage. 9 times out of 10, that's the guy you're looking at.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett he's not ready, very clearly. Now that obviously he didn't get the week to prep. So let's see him on a week of prep. And also this is probably the worst week to put him in the starting lineup because this is the best team you're going to play all season. But let's just see how he looks. Bailey Zappi showed up and looked like a competent quarterback in Lambeau.
Yeah.
Who knows? Kenny Pickett may look that way too. Zappi did not throw across the yard, but he made one mistake, no mistakes. Like, he didn't turn the ball over. So.
I like that you brought up, the looks last week for Freiermuth, because that's what it's going to take for him to sniff the top 10 even. He had 9 targets last week, 7 for 85 against a much different Jets defense. The only tight end to go off, and I'm using that very loosely, against Buffalo this season is Tyler Higby. He went 5 for 39 on 11 targets. So it's going to be volume if they're going to do anything. And of course, they've lost which safety did they lose? Not Poyer, but
Micah Hyde.
Micah Hyde. They've lost Micah Hyde. So
he wasn't the one covering the safety. He wasn't the one covering the tight end.
And Jordan Poyer stepped up last week. I think he had a pick towards the end of the game there, a nice deflection. Austin Hooper 1 for 19 against them. Durham Smythe led Miami. So Mike Gesicki was completely shut down. Durham Smythe went 3 for 23. And then Mark Andrews went 2 for 15 against the Buffalo Bills. If Buffalo wants to stop the tight end, they're going to shut Pat Freiermuth out of this game completely.
100%. I was 1-1-1 last week. Zay Jones was ruled out prior to kickoff, so that was my tie. So, RIP there. I have Mark Andrews outside the top 5 against Cincinnati.
It's that one I was going to say, we'll argue about the CeeDee Lamb one, but I wanted to hear about that one. Your downside actually threw me off quite a bit this week. So,
Baltimore has just seemingly looked like they've just, I don't know what it is. They're lacking something. And I don't know what, blow up against Miami, blow up against the Bills. These games have been literally in the bag for them. Yeah. In the bag. And to me, that's coaching. It's showing that John Harbaugh is not as good of a coach as I think people think. How do you not kick a field goal and take the points there?
That was awful.
How do you, what are you doing? I get it, right? Even if you miss, they have to drive the length of the field. Great, it was a safety. Okay, they're coming out from the 20 instead of the 5-yard line. If you kicked it off, they would have come out from the 25. Regardless, it didn't matter. They still had to drive the whole length of the field and kick a field goal. They almost fucking scored. It's the best offense in the league. Take the points, man. Make them score a touchdown to beat you and not a field goal. In every sense of the word, Buffalo was going to get in field goal range, and Tyler Bass has been one of the best field goal kickers over the last 21 games of regular season NFL football. I think it was a terrible move. Yeah. So I just think they're in a funk, and I think Cincinnati will clamp down and probably try and stop Mark Andrews. That's what I think. I'll go Najee outside the top 24 just so we can talk about CeeDee. Buffalo's, their defense is so good. Their Pittsburgh's offensive line is terrible, and Najee just hasn't been performing. He needs a touchdown in order to make his day at this point. So maybe he gets a lot of dump offs because of Kenny Pickles, but I don't like it. I don't like Najee. I'm benching him in one of my leagues.
Yeah, so. you were benching him for
Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, and James Robinson were my 3 guys that I'm playing over him because 2 running backs and a flex. So. And then the last one is CeeDee Lamb outside the top 24 against the Rams. I don't like Jalen Ramsey. Very clearly don't like Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, that's where when I saw it, I was completely thrown off. I would expect something like this from Josh, not from you.
So I don't think Cooper Rush can keep up what he's been doing.
Okay.
I do like Cooper Rush a lot, and I do think he has worked himself to a point where he should probably get a starting job in the NFL next year. I think so, based off how well he's filled in going back to last year. I also think there's no reason to rush back Dak Prescott right now because, and again, this is a dumb argument. You're 0-1 with Dak Prescott and 3-0 with Cooper Rush. But you haven't lost a game with him, and clearly the team is responding to him. And CeeDee Lamb has played well with him, averages 91 yards every time Cooper Rush is his quarterback. The Rams are coming off a piss-poor performance in the division against the 49ers on the road. They come back home. Dallas goes to LA. Granted, that is going to be a home game for them because the Rams cannot fill their stadium. But on the road, I don't think Sean McVay is going to allow 2 really bad back-to-back weeks for his defense. I don't think that's going to happen. Granted, his offense looked like shit too. I don't think he's going to allow 2 bad back-to-back weeks. And I think they're going to come up with some sort of concoction because now at this point, there is 5 games of tape on Cooper Rush, 3 from this season with what they're running. You got to have some way to stop this guy or figure out a way to shut down their best option. Because I'm sorry, Noah Brown ain't it. Dalton Schultz has been and Zeke and Tony Pollard aren't it.
You Gallup caught a touchdown in his first game back last week too. I like Gallup this week too.
Yeah, I'm cool with Gallup. I think you got to hone in on one guy. And CeeDee Lamb has to be that guy.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to beat the Cowboys this week. And that's why I think they hone in on CeeDee Lamb. I hope he proves me wrong because, God, I fucking hate Jalen Ramsey. But
so I literally wrote in my notes. And so it's funny. I get where you're coming from, but you're not going to disagree with anything I'm saying because I have that you have to pick on Jalen Ramsey. The Rams have allowed the second most fantasy points to wide receivers this season. And then you kind of brought up, you have to take away CeeDee Lamb with the exception of Stephon Diggs. Drake London, Hollywood Brown, Deebo Samuel all went over 20 fantasy points, and they were all the one guy you should have taken away in those offenses. And then with Lamb averaging 10 targets per game this season and, 8 or more with Cooper Rush at quarterback, 2 touchdowns in each of the last 2 weeks, I think we're just going to see a situation where Dallas is going to at least attempt to do the same. I don't think Cooper Rush is the type of quarterback who's going to take what's given to him. So I see what you're saying, where maybe they're going to try to take away CeeDee Lamb. I don't know that Cooper Rush is going to buy into that. So then you're dealing with CeeDee Lamb versus Jalen Ramsey. And I know in that battle, you're taking CeeDee Lamb every time. So
yeah. I mean, if he sees Darion Kendrick, then I'm scared because they don't follow anymore for some reason. They don't let Jalen Ramsey follow, which is dumb. He is the better of your 2 corners. You need to let him follow. But all right, let's dive into some of these questions here because I got a lot of them. Elixirs, standard, start 2. Drake London, Gabe Davis, Allen Robinson, Tyler Boyd, Chris Godwin. Say start 3, but I can assume you're starting Diggs. Yes, you are starting Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
So Drake London in Tampa, Gabe Davis at home against the Steelers. Allen Robinson
doesn't matter. I'm not picking him anyway.
Oh yeah, great, fantastic. He's at home against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd is in Baltimore on Sunday Night Football.
Yep.
Chris Godwin at home against the Falcons. This is a tough.
So I was watching Underdog Fantasy, and I know one of them's Hayden Winks, and I don't remember who the other guy is, but I want to give them a little shout out. They were basically showing how Buffalo is not running the vertical offense that they ran last year that allowed Gabe Davis to have the enormous games he had. And then it's a question of chicken versus egg. Is it because Gabe Davis is banged up that they're not running this offense? Or are they just not running the offense and Gabe Davis happens to be banged up? So I don't know that I'm ready to just throw Gabe Davis out there if I have better options. The issue is I don't know that you have better options right now because, like, Joe, you would contest that Tampa Bay's secondary is not all that great. So Drake London could be a nice play in what should be a game that they're trailing. Tyler Boyd, if you believe this is going to be another Baltimore game where it's going to be 40 points allowed, that makes Tyler Boyd an interesting option. So Godwin is the wild card here because I don't know how healthy he is. Because Josh I think said on Monday Godwin left last week's game a little banged up, but I haven't saw any news on that.
He did. I would roll here with Drake London and Tyler Boyd. I don't think it's going to be a Boyd week, but he's still been active in the offense. Again, look back to last year. Jamar Chase went off in Baltimore. Joe Mixon went off. T. Higgins had 15 targets still in that game. Like, this is a division game. Cincinnati will want to throttle the shit out of the Ravens. So I will go Drake London and Tyler Boyd. Allen Robinson's doo-doo. If Godwin was healthy, it's Chris Godwin, but he's just not. Gabe Davis, he was a postseason darling. He should have never been hyped up like he was. And we talked about it on the show. He should have never been hyped up like he was.
Yep. He got up to wide receiver 24 or something in drafts at one point by the end of the draft season. Godwin's the wild card for me. I would watch injury reports this week. Philly, neither of them is the Thursday game. So I would go Godwin over Boyd if Godwin looks positive for the whole week. If he doesn't, I would pivot to Boyd and agree with Joe. So.
Yeah. Okay. Ring chasing. Start Geno, Russ, or Teddy. He originally asked just Geno or Russ, but added in Teddy Bridgewater here. Geno is in New Orleans. Russ is at home tomorrow against the Colts. Teddy filling in for Tua in New York against the Jets. So it's funny. I thought Russell Wilson was questionable. He had the Q tag on him today. It got taken off. I put in a waiver claim for Geno. I have Fab, so it has to clear tomorrow. But I put in the waiver claim for Geno just to be, if Russ didn't play, I was good with starting Geno Smith.
Yeah.
I look, man, Geno's been playing really good.
Very
Obviously,
good.
we see that on the field. But in fantasy, he's playing really well. It's so hard to sit Russell Wilson.
Yep.
First off, I don't think Teddy Bridgewater, of the three of these guys, I don't think it's Teddy Bridgewater. Of the three.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's interesting because there's upside there. The Jets haven't stopped anybody on defense, and Teddy has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but can he use them? But I mean, that was the exact same question we were asking about Tua Tagovailoa. I would say with those being your counter options, Russ is in a decent spot tomorrow night going up against Indianapolis. Indianapolis is giving up like 16 to the quarterback, whereas the Jets are giving up 19. The Colts are in a bad spot, and I don't know how much the Colts are going to be able to move the ball on offense against a very good Denver defense. And they're at home. I think I give Russ another shot here, even though we were just shitting on Russ on Ring Chasing's team earlier.
Yeah, I would go Russ here too. If you want the highest upside, it's Geno Smith.
Ooh, I think the highest is Teddy.
No, I think the highest Geno with how he's been playing. And reminder, this does play into my factor. They're traveling back from London. They just got back from London this week. And also,
that's interesting.
If you're allowing 28 offensive points to Kirk Cousins in primetime, your defense sucks. I'm sorry. So
it's just the Saints have been so good. Like they got beat up by Mariota, but I guess that's sort of an attest to what Geno Smith could do, because what they've done is they've slowed down statues like Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield, and Kirk Cousins. But Marcus Mariota, who can move a little bit, he did it all on the ground. 12 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. But the Saints have been good against quarterbacks, man.
Wow. I'm going Russ because
I'm also going Russ, but we just disagree on your pivot. So
yeah. The pivot is whoever I guess you feel more comfortable. And he commented Teddy is who he feels more comfortable with.
Yeah.
Trey, AJ Dillon and Pitts were dropped in one of my leagues. Shout out to Elixir. She drafted tight end early. It'll be fun, they said.
Well, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I know it's not quite a question, but I wanted to just talk about that for Elixirs a little bit. That's why I started. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but towards the end of the draft season, I started to feel like, because I was high on the Dalton Schultz train, and obviously the rails fell off of that thing far too. But I wasn't so much trying to tell people I did say Dalton Schultz would finish as the tight end 3, and you don't draft just because you think a guy's going to finish there. But what I was trying to convey to people is Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce were the only tight ends that were worth a first 3 pick. Everybody else should have fallen back. And that was my issue, was George Kittle, Darren Waller, even Dalton Schultz and Kyle Pitts were still going from the 2nd round to the 4th round in too many drafts. And I thought everybody should have fallen to the 5th back. So I agree about not necessarily taking a tight end early if there's any bit of question, and you could go back and think that there were questions on all of those guys. The two guys there were no questions on were Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce. And the people who've taken them are singing the other tune. They're telling you they're going to draft a tight end early every damn year. And that's even after Mark Andrews' bad game. So for me, the tight end early, tight end is already a crapshoot. We already know that. Don't compound the crapshoot by drafting questionable guys a round or two ahead of where they should actually go.
Sure. And he's talking waiver priority here. So in a full PPR, we've had some listeners chime in on this. So I've seen some AJ Dillon stuff. AJ Dillon and Pitts dropped one of his leagues. Who should I get with a top waiver in full PPR? His tight end is Ertz. His running backs are CMC, Fournette, Kareem, Hunt, Akers, and ETN. So I think you're probably prioritizing. Man, I'm prioritizing Pitts. Like
I was gonna say, I'm a running back guy, and it's still Pitts for me, mainly because your running backs are pretty well set up.
He has two good ones, CMC and Fournette.
Yep, I don't know a situation where you're going to be like, I need to get AJ Dillon into my lineup. Whereas Pitts with Zach Ertz, we don't know what this offense is going to look like in Week 7 when DeAndre Hopkins comes back. Ertz could be very much benefiting by the fact that he is the true second target in this offense right now, and in 2 weeks that may not be the case anymore. So, or 3 weeks.
Yeah, what I would do is I would probably drop ETN.
Oh, I don't think he has to drop any of these guys. I think he's just asking for his full waiver.
Yeah,
I think he's just letting us who he has. So.
Honestly, throw Pitts in as the first waiver claim because I think people will probably snatch him up quicker than you think. Yeah. And throw in another claim for AJ. Honestly, dude, you're probably going to get both of them. Like,
I think Dillon will go unless, I mean, you do play in a league where someone dropped these two, so I guess there's a chance you could get both. I'm going to question you now, Joe. You would drop ETN over Akers?
See, that's the one I don't really know.
I don't know that he's even asking this question, but you said I would drop ETN and you threw me off there. I'm a big anti-Cam Akers guy, so that shocked me a little bit.
I don't like Cam Akers either, but it just I don't know. Akers, the coach that was there drafted him. The coach that drafted ETN is not there.
So and that's what scares me. I'm assuming this is not a dynasty, obviously, so I don't care about who drafted who. So you can pretty fairly say the general consensus is that Travis Etienne has been disappointing this year, right?
100%.
And over the last couple games, I think you could say that Cam Akers, while disappointing, is less the mood around Cam Akers is less disappointing than the mood around Travis Etienne. Correct. Travis Etienne has 11 more fantasy points than Cam Akers,
which is weird.
It's so weird, exactly.
Again, and that's why it feels weird. Like it's a full PPR too, so I guess you're dropping ETN. I'm sorry, you're dropping Akers because ETN has the.
And then that's assuming you have to drop. Don't willingly drop any. First of all, never willingly drop a running back unless you absolutely have to, and they're absolute trash. So.
And that's where we get into this question about Jonathan Taylor, because I've seen a lot of people where he's dropping Tyler Boyd. That's fine.
100%.
That's fine. Yeah. Please God, do not hit the panic button on this guy, people.
Yep. I'm full buy mode. We talked about it on our Monday show. Yep. Buy every bit of Jonathan Taylor you can right now.
100%. So listen, I get it, right? Look at last year. What was the first 4 weeks of Jonathan Taylor? Not great. Now, they were better. The first 2 weeks were like middle of the pack.
Was that last year? I thought that was his rookie year. I thought he came out swinging last year.
I'm pretty sure that was last year.
I'm bringing it up. Keep talking.
Yeah, bring it up. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it was last year. Because his rookie year, he didn't really play the first 4 weeks.
You're absolutely right. He came out relatively hot, 56 and 7 catches, but then dudded the next 2 weeks. So you're
so like he kind of, and I'm not saying very similar, but he had, I would say, similar looking first 4 weeks of the season.
Very fair. I mean, honestly, you're right, because he popped in week 1 this season and has been a disappointment since.
Right? Weeks 2 and 3, people are like, oh, damn. And week 4, he did pop, right? He had a good matchup. Week 4, gets injured, team down early, tough for him to get back in the game. Obviously, that's tough. This week, thank freaking God he's not playing against the Broncos. Because, I mean, well, also, if you have him on your team, thank God. But if you don't have him on your team, you should be angry because his buy price would have been even lower if he played
after he played terribly against
the Broncos. So. He has, according to Yahoo Sports, there was an article that came out of Yahoo Sports because someone shared this with me. He has the second easiest schedule amongst any running back for the rest of the season.
And this is exactly where I jumped on his train that rookie year. That he beats up on bad schedules. He was the RB1 over like the last 8 weeks of his rookie year. And I had just been telling people that season, be patient. He's going to pop. Buy Jonathan Taylor. You need to buy him right now. And there are prices out there where it's totally worth it. You may not get him at, bargain bin discount prices, but he is worth getting if you have the free roster spot to wait out this week. He is going to pop. In all honesty, I hope they give him week 6 off as well. As a manager who has Jonathan Taylor in so many leagues, I will survive these 2 weeks if I need to, knowing what he's going to do from week 7 on, because he has a week 14 bye. So if they give him these 2 weeks off, then I don't have to worry about him again until week 14. That's the last week of the season. Hopefully my playoff, fate is already decided at that point, but buy Jonathan Taylor.
His playoff schedule would be Minnesota, Los Angeles, Giants.
Yeah.
I like it. He sees Vegas, which he sees Houston in week 18, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But Vegas, the Patriots, the Commanders, Jacksonville.
I mean, all teams. Jacksonville just gave up multiple touchdowns.
140 yards. Yeah, exactly. 140 plus yards to Miles Sanders. So very beatable teams. Do not panic on Jonathan Taylor. Please, we beg of you, do not panic on Jonathan Taylor. Alex, start Edwards-Helaire or Najee Harris this week. Dude, I am so out on Najee. You have no idea this week. I hate Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I would smash the start button on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It blows my mind this guy is fantasy relevant because he's not good. Like he got a touchdown this week because Patrick Mahomes made 17 people miss in the backfield and then threw a lollipop to him. That's how he scored. Like, it's nuts, dude. It's nuts. This guy is fantasy relevant.
You're not wrong. I will say the Raiders also give up 6 receptions and 50 yards on average to fantasy running backs. So that's Edwards-Helaire all day. It seems they have put Jerick McKinnon in the back pocket. Holy shit.
I don't want to add him.
He can add himself.
I don't want to add him. No. Why? You
Sup,
ruined
guys?
a good stream. You ruined a good stream. God, you ruined a good stream. Jeez.
Your power just come
Finally
back.
got power back. Woohoo!
Oh, God. Dang. Couldn't hold up for 15 more minutes, Ian. Jeez. All right. Let's wrap it up here with some questions. And we'll
so we have a couple more segments.
Yeah, we still have a couple more segments. But we'll wrap it up with these questions here. We'll go through quick. Full PPR start 3, Zeke, Damien Harris, Michael Thomas, Singletary, Breece Hall, or Jerry Jeudy.
Ooh.
Also trust Russell Wilson or roll out Kirk Cousins this week. Kirk Cousins, Minnesota. I literally look at the schedule and forget it instantaneously.
I'm blanking on Chicago. At home.
At home.
They're coming from the London game.
Okay, so let's just say Russell or Cousins. Don't really need an explanation. Josh?
Breece Hall, Singletary, and Jeudy. The Colts
didn't even answer the fucking
Colts
question. Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins was the damn question. Thank you for answering part 2.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, probably Russ.
Okay.
I would do the stack Russ with Jeudy.
Ryan?
I would also go Russ.
Okay. You know what? Answer the first part of the question now too, because what are rules?
Oh, I haven't read the first part yet.
Too bad.
To know who I want to start.
Too bad. Zeke, Damien Harris, Michael Thomas.
I was pulling up the
Singletary,
schedule
Breece
as
Hall,
you
or
were
Jeudy.
reading, so I'm like, I'm assuming he started with the first.
I'm starting 3. I like Damien Harris this week. I like Singletary this week. I would go Harris, Singletary, Breece Hall.
I will go Russell Wilson over Kirk Cousins, and I will go Damien Harris. God, I hate Devin Singletary, but Devin Singletary.
He's been good.
I know, and it's painful. Probably Breece Hall. If you want to mix in a receiver, I would go Thomas over Jeudy. It is so blatantly apparent that Jerry Jeudy can't catch the football. It is so apparent he can't catch. So I will never trust him in my lineup.
And it goes back to the weird thing. I don't know where I got to go in and look more at the Seattle Seahawks this season, because it makes no sense to me that they're giving up the 6th most points to quarterbacks and the 22nd fewest points to wide receivers. So.
Yeah, it's weird. It is weird. Okay, this should be a consensus yes. Should I trade Godwin for James Robinson in a full PPR 10 team? Yes.
Always go get the running
backs always.
Get the
Especially
running
in
back.
10-team leagues.
You're 3-1 without Chris Godwin in your lineup. You're getting better.
He's done nothing for you, and now you're
Yeah.
improving your football team.
Yeah.
Plus James Robinson scoring 2 touchdowns this week.
100%, Nucci. 100%. I have Pittman, Waddle, Amon-Ra, and Sutton. What do I do this week with 2 being questionable? Tom's favorite waffle version 2. I want to know if version 1 wasn't good enough. That's why you had to make version 2, where you were
I
just
also
like,
want to know about these waffles.
yeah, I also want to know about the waffles. I made waffles yesterday. I want to know about your waffles so I can start making better waffles. Pittman, Waddle, Amon-Ra, Sutton. So the 2 Qs, Amon-Ra's questionable. Is Pittman questionable? I haven't seen the Q tag on Sutton or Waddle.
Waddle is the one.
Waddle's
is dealing with an ankle, I believe.
Okay, so Amon-Ra and Waddle. Obviously, this is a big question because Sutton, if you roll with him in your lineup, you have to play him tomorrow night. Whereas all the other guys, Waddle kicks off at 1, Amon-Ra kicks off at 1, and the Colts also. Or I'm sorry, that's my bad.
You gotta go.
Broncos,
You gotta make your choice tomorrow.
Yeah, you got to make your decision here because the 2 guys.
I'm sitting Michael Pittman. I think the Colts get boat raced in this game, so I'm sitting Michael Pittman. The question is, because you would rather start Waddle and Amon-Ra over Sutton, but you have to make the Sutton decision tomorrow. Because of that, I'm likely to start Sutton. I think he's in a good spot. Waddle if healthy, Amon-Ra if not healthy. If they're both unhealthy, I guess that's the issue. You're going to end up having to drop somebody, clearly. But I would not start Pittman. I would rather have someone off the streets than Michael Pittman tomorrow.
Yeah, this week's going to be tough for him. I go Sutton.
Patrick Surtain's going to shut him down.
Yeah. I go Sutton and Waddle as my top 2 guys. Because again, Waddle played last week.
Yeah, that's.
And he had a long week to get ready. I think he'll be fine. Amon-Ra's more the question mark because he's just coming off a regular week where he just missed, and it's a normal week for the Lions. I would roll Sutton and Waddle. Even if Amon-Ra's healthy, I'm still probably playing Waddle. So, Josh.
I mean, I agree with Ryan. You're starting Sutton simply because with the Q tags on Waddle and Amon-Ra. I think if both Waddle and Amon-Ra are healthy, the easy decision then would be start Amon-Ra over Waddle, only because Amon-Ra, like, why on earth would you even consider benching him with how great he's been? And 2, Waddle with a backup quarterback, and there's a lot of questions there. So
I was gonna say it's not like Waddle's been bad. That's what I was gonna argue with you there. But
I agree. But even then, like, there's still you've had down weeks for Tyreek in that offense. You're gonna have down weeks for Tyreek. You're gonna have down weeks for Waddle. Not every week both those guys are going to explode. I understand the Jets have been not great. Sauce Gardner's been really good. So whoever ultimately he's going to end up covering
Tyreek
is going to have the down.
Yeah, all the hype this week is Tyreek because they're already asking him about, and he said, I've covered Jameson Williams.
I mean, is he wrong in his statement?
No, he's not wrong. Jameson Williams and Tyreek not exactly built the same.
Jameson Williams,
both are fast.
6'2", right? Or is he short as well?
Jameson's a little taller. I think he's like 6'1".
6'1", also like
Tyreek's
102 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, that was one thing we talked about with Williams this year is there's no comparison to Tyreek.
Tyreek Hill is built like a fat Lego character who's really fast.
Tyreek Hill's neck is thicker than anything on Jameson Williams.
Tyreek Hill has a neck?
Yeah, that's a good point. His shoulder hump.
Yeah. Okay, last one before we fly through stream of the week, all that stuff. Motherfucker dice dealer. I see him in every show I'm in. I love it. More short bench weirdness. Juju, Claypool, and Scary Terry were dropped. Time to give up on Godwin yet. Go get Terry McLaurin and drop Chris Godwin. Who is dropping Chris Godwin?
I say, do you have to drop Godwin? But if you have to, yes, give me McLaurin, especially in standard.
Well, he's talking short bench, so I imagine Godwin's his lowest performing receiver.
And that's fair.
Terry McLaurin, what are we doing? Like, we can.
Well, to be fair, he is wide receiver 41 so far on the season. He hasn't.
That's what I was going to say.
Like, I think he only has 1 touchdown through 40.
Jonathan Taylor sucked too, and we're not giving up on him. Like,
I mean, I agree, but you're talking about the guy that has been the wide receiver or running back one versus a guy that we want to be a wide receiver one who's yet to be a wide receiver
The
one.
one thing I'll throw out because of this being standard is McLaurin is also averaging 18 yards per reception, which is enormous in standard too. So I would want McLaurin over Godwin. But what's funny is, Joe, you're saying, what are we doing dropping McLaurin? But I don't agree with dropping Godwin except for McLaurin. So, I mean, it's just another weird one. So the short benches are just killing you. I don't know if you've explained this to us before, but are you running like 3 bench? Like, how short are these benches?
I do have to say, I was in a 14-team league, and there were 4 bench spots. It was awful.
Well,
There
we're
were
in
4
that,
bench spots. It was terrible.
We're all in the IDP guys league where it's full offense, full defense, 22
and only
starters,
8 bench spots for both.
and only 8 bench spots.
Bro, Miles Garrett was hurt. TJ Watt was hurt. I'm dropping good guy. Yeah, no, it's painful.
That's what I'm saying. You're dropping.
I mean, I was on the verge of dropping Elijah Moore. Like that. That's how.
I mean, I've seen
desperate I am.
Elijah Moore. I've seen Elijah Moore dropped in 14-team just regular lineup leagues.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So.
All right, let's get through these quick. I smell dinner, so I'm hungry.
So Joe's done.
Omar's question popped in. I don't know if you missed that.
Yes,
one, Joe.
yes, and I wanna end with Omar's question. Don't worry, I
Okay.
did see that. Sponsor kick, Connect Go, stream of the week. Ryan.
All
Weisse.
right. Stream of the week brought to you by Connect Go. As always, if you're not familiar with Connect Go, check the links in the description. Connect Go is an app for either Apple or Android that lets you connect with some of your favorite analysts in the fantasy industry. You're able to set up group chats or even video calls for a small fee. It's not just me on the app. Nate Markham, Jorge Edwards, Stepmom Lauren, Chris Robin, guys who focus on IDP, guys who focus on DFS, and Stepmom Lauren, who's just good at everything. So make sure you check out Connect Go, and you can get some advice, some one-on-one advice from some of your favorite fantasy analysts. My streams of the week: Zach Wilson at quarterback. He did just come up with an ankle injury, but I'm not letting it scare me off yet. Miami's given up the second most points to quarterbacks, almost 28 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. Wilson has the weapons. He just needs to get the ball to them. Logan Thomas taking on the Tennessee Titans for my stream of the week tight end. Tennessee's given up 17 fantasy points per game to tight ends overall, which is absolutely insane. Mo Ali Cox just went off for 2 touchdowns, but more importantly, Kylan Granson actually hit 10 fantasy points that game as the second tight end. So they're giving up points to backup tight ends now. Logan Thomas is not sharing time with pretty much anybody in that offense, and he's averaging 5 targets per game, and Jahan Dotson is out. I think this is a big Logan Thomas week. Finally, the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Houston Texans. This was such a decision for me between Jacksonville and Minnesota taking on Chicago. I went with the defense that I just like better. Houston's been pretty good, but they have given up 3 sacks in 3 games this year. Plus, they've turned the ball over twice, 2 interceptions in each of their last 2 games. Jacksonville already has a 5-sack game this season, and they have turnovers in each of their last 2 games. So I think you're going to see the sacks and turnovers and possibly even a touchdown. I'm going to call it now. We're going to see a Josh Allen sack scoop score for a touchdown.
I love it. I picked up the Jaguars defense without even seeing this before because I had Carolina's. I picked up Mariota last week, so I just dropped Mariota for Jacksonville's defense. Yeah, I'm big on Jacksonville's defense this week. Hey, their only home games so far this year. Shout out.
There you go.
Play fade, my Joe's P corner. Lions against Patriots. Play Hawkinson. It is blowing my mind. What the fuck is happening to us covering tight ends? It makes no sense. Historically, the Patriots have been one of the best teams at covering the tight end in recent history. They can't figure it out this year. So especially if Amon-Ra is out, that's big for Hawkinson. My fade is Goff. I didn't want to fade Jamal Williams because I do think he gets over 100. They're like, our corners aren't good.
So it's interesting because I wanted Goff made my stream of the week list. He is not the number 1 guy. And I had the debate of it being Goff having a good year and New England not having a good year, but it's still Goff versus Bill Belichick. And I don't love the odds there. So,
but like for the defense of New England hasn't been awful.
No, they've been mediocre, which is weird for New England. But
yeah, I mean, yeah,
it's kind of a
is.
bend don't break just by looking at the stats.
100%. But I mean, you can't sit there and tell me last week they should have gotten ass pounded by the Green Bay Packers. They should have gotten.
They should have got destroyed. And then when you hear they
Destroyed.
lose their backup quarterback
And go to
early
a
in the
third-string,
game,
fourth-round rookie
Yeah.
who has FBS records. Fuck you. In your 62 touchdowns and 6,000 passing yards at Western Kentucky, that shouldn't count. But like, who has FBS records? Like, and also, you probably didn't watch the Patriots in preseason. Bailey Zappi looked awful in preseason. So I don't know. I didn't really like anybody to truly fade, because I'm like, I'm not fading Josh Reynolds. I'm not fading DJ Chark. Nobody's high on these guys. I think Goff is the most realistic guy to fade.
Are you going on the assumption that two questions? Are you going on the assumption that Amon-Ra is not playing, or are you going on the assumption that Bill Belichick takes Amon-Ra out of the game even if he doesn't play?
I think he takes Amon-Ra out of the game because he knows that's the number one option. And Jared Goff historically sucks against the Patriots.
I love it.
Talking props.
I wouldn't be high on the fact that Swift plays, and that obviously is going to elevate Hawkinson as a result anyway.
Yeah.
Swift will probably not play. They'll go into their bye week in week 6, give them 3 full weeks to get ready. Week 7,
especially because Williams hasn't given them a reason to like need to play him.
Well, that's what I said. The coach immediately said they wanted to sit him. I don't even understand why they haven't announced it yet. I wonder if there's some sort of GM pressure or DeAndre Swift pressure. It's a very weird situation.
I hated the people that like crapped on Jamal Williams, Josh, because I know Josh did that in his time in Green Bay. Jamal Williams is a good
in his time in Green Bay. Josh
back.
did it the last 2 damn Monday shows where I told people to sign Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams is a good running back.
He's all right.
Okay,
I like him.
Dickhead. He's literally giving you 5 straight years of proving you wrong. Even
that's all right.
I would.
Jared Goff's the QB5, but in Joe's eyes, he still sucks. So
Jared Goff does suck.
Don't give me any shit about this.
Jared Goff has played well for 5 games. Jamal Williams has played well for 5 seasons.
Jared Goff has won me back.
I don't know about
I'm ready
well
to be
for
again.
5 seasons. He's been okay for 5 seasons.
Listen, fuck Jared Goff. Okay. Also, my Alvin Kamara take this year. Shut up, everybody.
Yeah,
He's
look
terrible. He's terrible.
Yeah,
I look so good right now.
I was a staunch Alvin Kamara defender. That's a hard pill to swallow at this point.
I look so good right now. Thank you, Alvin Kamara. Okay, talking props. Justin Fields, over 202.
I'm so glad Josh is here because I feel like we have to
yards.
talk about this. So.
You know, I was going through and I was looking at just like for the upside downsides, and I'm like, tell me this doesn't feel like a Minnesota letdown game.
That's fair.
Coming back from
London, where they eke out a win. Yes, it's at home. Everything has gone wrong for Chicago, but they have been running quarterbacks have gotten them. And I think this is where you can see that total go up. I'm not saying he throws for over 200 yards, but I'm saying he's going to get enough on the ground that's going to push him over that 203.
So he hit that number last week. So
outside of week 1, the Vikings have looked mediocre, right? I mean, week 2, they looked like shit. Week 3 and 4, they've been, I mean, like they flatlined. They haven't looked great. They haven't looked bad.
They also bring pressure at like the 4th lowest rate in the NFL. It's unreal.
Which is interesting with
Daniil
considering
Hunter,
they have Hunter and Zadarius Smith.
Smith, Eric Kendricks can blitz, Jordan Hicks can blitz.
And then
so that's why I'm like,
well, and
obviously, if this is a week you're going to bring pressure, it's this one. So
yeah, 100%.
Well, and Z Smith popped up on the injury report this week too, so that's
even better,
even more interesting.
Yeah, Ryan, you have Terry McLaurin higher than 59.5 receiving yards.
I'd say it doesn't need a ton of explanation. Tennessee is just flat out awful. They're giving up almost 200 per game to the wide receiver, and 5 wide receivers in 4 games have already hit this number against them. So.
All right, friends. We're going to fly through this right now. Omar, choose 2 to start. Chris Godwin, Pittman, Amon-Ra. So, Ryan, this brings in a big question for you because obviously Amon-Ra.
These are all 3 bothersome guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Josh, I'll start with you. Again, no explanation.
I mean, I'm sitting Pittman. Like, there's nothing that tells me to play him. So,
I think all of us are going to say sit Pittman, right, Ryan?
Pittman. Yep.
Okay. Sit Pittman. Just make sure you have options on your bench in case one or both those guys are out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Wide receivers, Arisby, Olave.
This is a continuation from that question.
Oh, continuation. Sorry. Yeah, his team, it's a 10-team, 5 bench spots, 2 IR. So 2 less than your traditional bench spots in a 10-team.
Yeah.
Okay. Yee. Trade Jefferson for Evans, Higgins, and Mitchell. No, because then you're going to have to drop 2 really good guys, and it's not worth it.
I would need to know who you're dropping. It's not a big no for me, depending if you have weak bench spots. I'm not 100% against this, but I would need to know who you're dropping if you're still in the chat.
Yeah, I'm with Ryan on this one. Like, if I'm dropping, I don't know, Josh Reynolds and Noah Brown, then yeah, I'm making this trade 100% of the time.
Would you trade Jefferson for Higgins straight up?
No.
But I would trade Jefferson for Evans and Higgins, and then Mitchell is the bonus. So.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I'm not. I mentioned earlier, I'm not normally a big fan of.
I'm also going on the big assumption that this is not a keeper or dynasty type league. Otherwise, this trade doesn't even get sniffed in that type of league. Yeah.
Another trade: Mixon and Olave for Kirk and Swift.
Oh,
I say no.
I don't hate it only because Mixon really has been nothing outside of voluminous. Like there's volume there, but little to no efficiency.
I like the health, and I think.
Yeah, Kirk, but I mean, let's be honest. At a certain point, every freaking running back's going to get hurt.
No, sure, and obviously we saw Swift the back half of last year. He was fine. I would say I would keep it. I would keep it. I mean, how about this? If you have a winning record, keep it. If you have a losing record, change it up.
Yeah, for me, it would be hard. I don't know. Whichever side I had, it would be hard for me to give up. So if they're offering you, I would try to get another piece. If you're thinking of offering them, I would just keep your shit. So.
Yee said he's dropping ETN and Pickens. Then yes, I would 100% go with that trade.
Yeah.
Yep. If that's what you're doing, I'd go with that. Alex, for receivers, start Godwin, Judy, or Terry McLaurin. I think this is a unanimous Terry McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin.
You got it.
Okay. Terry McLaurin. Who do I start between Pittman, Keenan Allen, and Najee Harris at the flex? It is Keenan Allen, and it is a resounding Keenan Allen from the floor, right?
If he's healthy, obviously.
If he's healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
If Keenan Allen, but you have the nice Najee to Keenan pivot.
They both play at 1. They both play at 1.
Yeah.
So worst case, you're going to throw in Najee Harris. He might get 3 points.
I think the biggest thing we can take from this show, you're sitting Michael Pittman tomorrow.
Yes,
Michael Pittman 100%. Is a resounding sit. So
that means he's going to have 3,000 points tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. McBuckets, trade Mostert for Gabe Davis.
I would.
We
I'll take whatever I can for Raheem Mostert.
I mean, they're both taking time bombs in terms of health, but
100%.
I mean,
okay. Yeah. We got our last 3. Hopefully, we'll see. Hollywood for Sanders needs an running back, and he has Jefferson, Hill, and Higgins. Probably, yes.
I would do it. Yeah. I mean, what Hollywood do we get after week 7?
Exactly.
When D-Hop comes back. Like, he's one of the biggest mysteries in fantasy football over the next 3 weeks.
Sanders doesn't look like he's going anywhere.
Yeah. And, I mean, you don't need to ever start Marquise Brown with those receivers. So, Airzate, trade Melvin Gordon for Ramondre Stevenson.
This is a tough one.
I would keep Melvin Gordon at this point, dude. He is Mike Boone is not stealing carries from him.
Yeah, Latavius Murray and Mike Boone are nothing. I just want to quickly throw out all this nonsense where Mike Boone, these high waiver priorities. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams have disappointed people so far this year. Why in the world is Mike Boone the answer to any question except for who you should not be picking up?
So. He's better.
Because he's better.
Yeah.
Did you not remember Mike Boone Chalk Week from Minnesota a few years back? Come on, man.
Melvin Gordon 100%, but Ramondre Stevenson is not a bad guy to go and get for those listeners that do want to look at.
Yeah, I think Melvin Gordon's going to be fine, and I think you want Melvin Gordon.
Yep.
My biggest issue is if he keeps fumbling, Latavius Murray is going to steal those goal line carries.
Yeah, it could be a problem.
Yep.
Like, that's the only reason that I see Murray as a threat, because he has a nose for the end zone. Outside of that, dude got outplayed by a washed-up Devonta Freeman last year. Like, people need to realize this.
Yep.
Continue.
Omar, last one. Just traded Najee, Michael Thomas, Antonio Gibson, and Tyler Conklin for Dalvin Cook, Chris Godwin, Tyler Higby. Who won? Knee jerk?
Honestly, I think
the Najee side. Najee over Cook? I guess maybe. I don't really know.
Well, you could argue Godwin and Thomas are pretty neck and neck even. I don't know that Higby and Conklin are that different. So you could argue that this trade is Najee and Gibson for Dalvin Cook. If this comes down to roster construction for me, Dalvin Cook is the better of the 3 backs. But if I need 2 running backs, I like the Najee side. If I only needed 1 running back, I like the Cook side. If you think Godwin's going to pop, you could give it to the Godwin side. It's an even trade. I don't think anybody necessarily won. The end of the season will tell you who won. I don't have
Yeah, I mean, it is fairly even. I would prefer the Cook side. I don't know what you're getting with Conklin going forward. That's just, I mean, Zach Wilson has.
Yeah, and Higby is looking like the second target in the Rams.
Yeah, Higby looks like a top 5 tight end right now, just in terms of volume.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm not saying talent, I'm saying in volume. But, Cook, yes, he's hurt. What the hell's Najee done? Like, he really hasn't done anything. Gibson's about to get replaced by a guy that was shot twice in the offseason. Like, I just pour one out for Gibson. Like, that's kind of where I'm at this point.
Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the last-minute questions. Reminder, we start at 7 p.m. Eastern, so you can get those in even sooner. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate y'all. Again, we are super close to 450. I'm going to refresh right now just to double-check and make sure. See, we're actually
a lot of new names in this chat, too. So.
We are, yeah. 443 subscribers. We need 7 more. So if you're not subscribed, click subscribe at 450. All of you are entered in to win a free signed Cortland Sutton jersey. And it's the blue Broncos jersey, so it's pretty sweet.
No, it's the orange one.
Orange one. Psych. It's the orange one. Way
That's
cooler.
really sweet.
Yeah, really sweet. Tomorrow, Sneaky Flex, 6:30 Eastern. Down with IDP, 7 p.m. Eastern. Starts a different day, 11 a.m. on Saturday. DFS and Chill, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Omar, thank you. Thank you, Omar. Appreciate it. For Josh, who joined us for 20 minutes at the One Hudsonian. For Ryan at the Fantasy 5. For myself, not at Bismarck Larks, but please follow us. It's at Joe Zollo. You can follow Joe_Zollo. You can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. And we will see all of you next week.